Hey guys, how's it going? It's Jaden here from Couch to the Mind, clearing the mind one couch talk at a time. I know I've had a couple of weeks break. I'm actually really looking forward to getting back into interviews again. And first of all, I just want to say I hope everyone's had a fantastic Christmas. They've got everything they wanted, so long as they stayed off the naughty list and they did all the good stuff. Made sure they were treating people right and treating themselves right as well. So today I've actually got my grandmother from South Australia on the podcast with me today. Gigi, we call her Gigi, but she's also known as Rita Woolaston. How are we, Gigi?
Very good, thank you, Jaden.
Yep,
In fact, I feel really good.
really good. How's your time up in Brisbane?
Oh, wonderful. Every time I come up here, I have a ball.
So the topic we'll be going over today is against all odds, and the reason why I've chosen this particular title was because Gigi was living over in England during the time of the war. So she was going to go over what it's like, the living conditions, and her dad actually was serving the army.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he served in the army,
Mhm.
and Gigi didn't know him until age 7 or 8,
6.5.
6.5.
Mm.
So she's going to go through that. We're going to talk about the mental health side of things, how that kind of played a part, not knowing her father, and maybe having to take cover in the bomb shelters, quite so often, when it became such a normality, what it kind of felt like mentally, and how she overcame these sort of things. And one other hurdle that we're going to mention is, Gigi went through a bit of breast cancer herself. We try to make light of it, make a joke of it, and we call it 1T Gigi because Gigi went through it all. So reason why we call it 1T Gigi is because she's got a fake. I'm not going to say. I think you guys know what I'm talking about, but yeah. So she makes light of it, and we're going to also talk about how you get over something so tragic as that. So I'm going to hand it over to Gigi now, and maybe we can start off by maybe talking about living in London and the time of the war.
Well, number one, I didn't live in London. I lived in St Helens, Lancashire, and war broke out when I was 6 months old, and my dad had to go into the army, and my mum was left with three children, all under three, um, um, a shop, and a grumpy old auntie. So it was very hard for her. She was the one that was suffering. And I can remember clearly as I grew up, because it took 6.5 years for the war, as I grew up, it's very clear about the Blitz and the bombs and going into the shelters. And we had a cellar that we used to go down to. Um, and it wouldn't be once a night. Yeah. It could be 5 times a night, 6 times. And it was hard for my mum. Then, of course, there was rationing, which was shocking. No coal. Everything was by coupon. You had to have a book of coupons and only allowed so many.
Yeah.
It was very hard.
And getting over something like that, like, did it have like quite a bad impact on your mental health? I know you were quite young at the time.
I was young, but
were you confused?
I missed a lot.
Were you a bit confused as to why you had to take cover in this bomb shelter so frequently?
Yes,
do you have an understanding of what a war was at that age?
Only when later on, as I was about 5.5, I realised what war was and what it was doing.
Yeah.
But it was not pleasant. There was a terrific blitz in Liverpool, which wasn't far away from me. And it just shook everywhere. It was dreadful. But anyway, when I was about 3.5, I had whooping cough, and my dad was sent for compassionate leave.
Yep.
When he came, I didn't know him. I just didn't know him at all. And of course, I was sick as well, so that was the hard part. And he was allowed 24 hours, and he'd come from North Africa. And he managed to get a week compensation leave.
Yep.
And by the end of the week, I got to know him really well, because he sat with me all the time.
And what was that like? Finally being able to meet your
Oh, it was
father.
wonderful. Oh, he was a lovely man.
Did you see him as a father figure, or do you see him more like someone that you could not rely on, but someone that you could look up to get you through something difficult?
Yeah, someone to look up to, but actually, he was the best dad. He was a fantastic man, and he was so caring. And
Yep.
it was sad when he had to go back. It affected me a lot when he had to go back again.
How did
Then-
you how did you how did you manage to get through that time when you only just got the chance to meet him, and then you had to leave, and you said you were struggling a bit? How did you get through that stage?
Well, I did a lot of crying. I know that for a start, because I was the youngest of the three. So, yes, I was very upset. I think my mum had a job on with me. And then soon after that, I had scarlet fever, which I had to be taken to an isolation hospital for 6 weeks. I didn't see anybody, my mum or anyone, because it's a fever hospital. So that was traumatic when I came back, and everybody was waiting for me, and I hadn't seen anybody. I didn't think they loved me anymore.
Yeah. And what sort of thoughts were running through your mind when you were in isolation in this fever ward?
I thought I'd been abandoned. I really did. I really did think I'd been abandoned. I didn't think my mum loved me anymore, and she'd be outside, but they wouldn't let her in.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see her. Yeah. And yeah, it was hard. It was. But there was a big get together when I got home, as much as we were allowed to.
Yep. And for people who may be listening in right now who may have, I mean, it's different nowadays. I mean, obviously, if you've got, in recent times, you've got COVID, then obviously you've got to be in isolation from family, friends, and, loved ones, so on and so forth. But if someone goes through such a tragic experience, much like the war, or they're in isolation, what do you think that you should remind yourself when you're going through that, or how do you get through such a tough time?
Well, actually, being in isolation with COVID didn't bother me one bit. I live alone, and I can't say it really didn't bother me, because I couldn't have visitors.
Yeah.
So it was hard, but there was a lot more worse off than me. Same as in the war, there was thousands worse off than me. And at least my dad came back, and that was the main thing.
So is that what you probably, like, for people listening, is that what you would probably say to yourself, like that the situation you're in right now, there are people out there that are going through much more difficult scenarios? Is that something that you would remind yourself to get through the tough times?
Yes, there's always somebody worse off than me and other people,
Yep.
So, and I'm a person that can cope. I think I can cope fairly well with things that's going on. It's I kind of overlook things and do it my way. Like the song says.
Look, for people who don't know Gigi personally, I think Gigi is one to do things in her own sort of way, shape, or form. If you stay at her house in the morning, it sounds like the bloody train station's going off. So 4 a.m. in the morning, the kettle's boiling. Looks like your bloody nightclub, Gigi's nightclub, and then you can hear her slippers tipping toeing through the corridor,
and the blinds going,
and the blinds going up. 5 in the morning, it's time to get up. No, but it's good. That's why we love you, Gigi. But I guess leading on from here, this is probably what leads me into the next question I'm going to ask you. Fast forward to when you got the call that you had breast cancer.
Yes, that was in 2003.
2003, and what was that like, finding that news out?
Well, it was a self-examination. I'd had a mammogram 2 months before, nothing was picked up, and I realised there was something, so straight off to the doctor, and her reaction was, don't book any holidays. So that was a bit of a blow, because we always like to go on holiday, but she said, don't book any. So I knew then there was something.
Yep.
following day it was biopsy, and then straight off to the Royal Adelaide Hospital. I went on the Thursday, and I think I was operated the following Wednesday, and it was straightforward. They said they'd got the whole, well, hopefully they'd got everything.
Yep.
There was lymph nodes and all that. And I was in there for about a week, came home. Then I had to go on a course of radiotherapy for 6 weeks. But the best way I got over it was we were having a big pergola built at the time, and all the wood had been delivered. It was all on boards. And I said, let's start painting because it'll be easier to do it down here than up on there. So
Yep.
that's, I just let things go. We just used to go off for the radiotherapy and come back, and I'd get my painting gear out. And I reckon that was the best thing I could have done.
So you reckon keeping your mind
Keep
occupied,
your mind occupied, yeah.
and I guess doing something else where you can, maybe something that's going to take a little while to get through.
That's right.
So that way, on the toughest days, you can focus and spend your time doing that.
That's right. And also, I am a bit of a laughing person, as you know.
Yep. Oh, I don't know. I wouldn't know.
You know, I'm doing a lot of laughing. And I always, there again, those people worse off than me, far worse off than me with cancer. And, but this was how I coped with it.
Yep. So I guess when you're going through something such as tragic and difficult as that, you've got to remind yourself to focus on something else rather than putting all your strenuous thoughts and all these negative things in your mind. Just focus on something where it's a long-term thing to actually get it done rather than spending all your time worrying about something that can't be changed.
That's right. There's nothing you can do once you get it.
Yeah.
And I found the most worrying part was being fitted for a prosthesis.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Do you mind? Because I don't know what that means. I'm sure other people wouldn't know either.
Well, it's a false boob.
Oh, really? I didn't know
you
had one, Gigi.
Oh, you do. I have a nickname of 1T Gigi.
And what does that mean?
Well, you named it, didn't you?
I have no idea. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, well, 1T Gigi. Hashtag 1T Gigi. So it's just been a standing joke, which isn't a joke, but it is a joke, and I love it. Yeah. It's not spoiled my life through being called 1TG. It's enhanced it. Yeah.
My question is, how do you stay so positive when you go through all this sort of stuff, all these, and this is why I kind of called the episode Against All Odds, because of those, especially for those two scenarios that I've mentioned in this episode. I'm sure there are many other ones throughout your life, but those two are quite difficult and tragic experiences that you went through. How do you just stay so positive? Because you're sitting here with me right now, and you can talk about life as if it doesn't affect you when you look back and think about it.
Well, I realise now. I mean, I'm 81 now, so...
Are you? I thought you were 65.
Get out. If only. So I'm lucky to get to 81. I'm very lucky. I look at it that way, and I've had a good life, especially since I came to Australia. And we came here with my daughter, husband, myself, and that was it. A suitcase.
Yeah.
We've done a lot in Australia, and it was a really good move.
How do you start all over again, especially because you didn't know anyone in Australia? How did How did you find a job? How did you meet people? How did you just start over again?
Well, my husband worked at Pilkington Glass Works, which was the home of Pilkington's Glass.
Yep.
And we stayed in a hostel in the city for 3 weeks with iron bars. And someone came in one day and he said, I know that man. And he used to work with him in Pilkington. 2 days later, he had a job.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
But I always said we wouldn't need a car when we came here. Well, that was an understatement, wasn't it? With the distance in Australia. And yeah, we've moved around in South Australia. We've moved around quite a lot. And we've had a good life, a great life. We bought a shop and had that for about 15 years. And and I've never been back for a holiday. I couldn't have flown back. You see, we flew. It took us 76 hours to get here back plane, and I was pregnant.
And you had enough of the long
I
distance travel.
could not do that again. No.
Oh, the biggest question I'm about to ask you right now, and I'm sure other people will be wanting and eager to know, when it comes to the Ashes series, who do you go for, the Australians or the Poms?
Now that's the question. It used to be England, but now I'm a real Aussie. It's Australia.
Good answer, Gigi. Good answer.
Thank you.
I'm sure everyone will be happy.
I am so happy in Australia. I always have been.
And going back to what I was saying before, in terms of, you starting your whole life again, moving to Australia, not knowing anyone, finding a job, finding people building relationships. How do you do that? How do for people to have an understanding of that? Like, say for example, I said to you, "Hey Gigi, I'm going to go traveling for 6 months into a country that I don't know. I've never been to. I don't know anyone there, but I'm going to try and find work." Where would you start? So that way you're not overwhelmed with all these questions.
Yes. Just be yourself. Get to know people. Be friendly with them. Let them know that you're really keen to work, and go with the flow. And if with your attitude, you would get a job.
Yep.
And I feel it. You can't walk in bombastically.
Yep.
And say, it's like when we came. We didn't know one person when we came, and the taxi driver that took us from the airport to the hostel, he couldn't speak English, and he said, "Where is it?"
So you couldn't even understand what you were saying.
So he couldn't understand anything.
So he's kind of pretty much in the same boat
and
as
he
you.
was in the same boat, and I felt sorry for him because, we were never been near the place, no idea where it was, but we ended up having a laugh. We finally broke the ice between each other,
Yep.
But it's just such a great place, and,
Yep.
and it's, I think, it wasn't easy when we first came. You've got to, because I was pregnant, so the first thing is find a doctor in a hospital,
Yep.
school for Mary, and but I had a very good next door neighbour. She was wonderful, and she told me all the ropes of what to do and where to go, and it was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So pretty much what you're saying is if you're wanting and eager to do something like that, you've got to be in the right mindset to be able to do it. And you probably want to set a lot of expectations rather than setting all these high expectations that you're going to achieve A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Maybe just going with the flow more so.
Yes.
Having a bit of an understanding as to where you want to go, what you want to do, but just going with the flow and not setting any expectation at all.
That's exactly right. Don't be fairly humble, because you don't know you don't know anything what's going on, and people are willing to help you, and the Australians was always willing. And I only got called a pom twice. So we settled. Mary had a great education, so did Jeff when he was born. And it's been the best move we ever made. So, but it's different when you first come. A lot of people that were on that plane we came on went back again.
just
just
they miss the home
couldn't.
life.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
right. They missed the old life. Yeah. I mean, look, I miss mum and dad terribly, but they came 2 years after. Mm.
Yeah.
So that was lovely. And we all lived close and
Yep.
it was good. Yeah.
Going back to, it was something you mentioned just before. You were saying how you use laughter as a form of getting through
Yes.
difficult stuff.
Mm.
Uh, why do you think it's so important for people to laugh and just kind of shrug things off rather than kind of holding on to maybe some things that have happened in the past or recent activities or scenarios that they've been involved with that they weren't fond of or they've had a negative impact on themselves?
Well, like I said, laughter is a good thing. It's a brilliant thing. Sometimes you can't laugh, but in my case, I think laughter's been a cure.
Yeah.
I really do, and I laugh at anything, as you know. But yeah, in some cases, people are in a position mentally that they can't laugh and they can't see that side of things, and I feel for those people.
It's interesting you say that because I feel like sometimes when you're in a really bad headspace, you're in competition with your mind in that you want to laugh but you don't want to because you feel like your mind's beating you. You know,
Yes,
like
yeah,
you want to keep winning this race,
that's right, yeah,
and by
yeah.
having the ability to do that is to try and see how long you can last without laughing,
Yes,
without showing any
yeah,
signs of happiness and that sort of forms of work.
That's exactly right.
Once
Yeah.
you overcome that hurdle, and maybe it's because some people don't want to talk about certain things. So I think if you can overcome that hurdle and open yourself up, let the walls down, and then start to laugh at things.
Yes,
I think
yeah.
I think you're right. I think life does become a little bit easier.
Life becomes so much easier, and you see the other side of life once you start letting things go and laughing. And I'm a real good laugher. So there you are. I'm an example.
And what does the future hold for you, Gigi? You getting back into employment? You're gonna.
What, 81? No, thank you.
I saw on, I think it was Lad Bible, there was some old bloke who was working at McDonald's and he was about in his 80s. It's never too old to start.
I think I saw that. Oh no, well,
I could see you flipping some burgers, Gigi.
I'd love to go back into a shop again. Oh, I thought that was lovely. Shop life, running my own shop.
Could you do it again?
Yeah.
When you
for my age.
get yourself out there.
Oh yeah.
I could see you working at Miller's.
Oh no, that wasn't like that. No. Actually, my dad had a shop, and it was all clothes and dresswear and drapery. Yeah. I worked there before when I left school. I was assistant window dresser.
Yeah, but who knows, Gigi? You still got plenty of living to do.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
But I think the odds are a bit.
Oh, and then you could also, I mean, if we're talking about ticking things off the bucket list, you could even try and pass your learners on your
Oh
car.
no, I could never.
Why not?
No.
There's no reason why you can't.
I don't want to drive a car.
Oh, you'd be great. You'd be like Speedy Gonzalez.
I'd be the slowest driver in the world. No, and I've never wanted to drive.
What are you scared of driving or something?
I think I'd be too slow. Yeah, I did take lessons.
Oh, I didn't realise it. You're not slow normally with everything you do.
With driving, I am. No, I wouldn't. I'd hate to drive. And there would be one stage there was a car in the drive all day, and Sam had his van.
Yeah.
And somebody said, "Why don't you learn and get the car out?" I said, "No, I value other people's lives."
What about the electric scooter? Like, you know, like the old people use with the little flag on the side?
I'm not to that stage yet.
Or even a walker?
No, I'm not to that stage yet. We're still managing.
It's all right, Gigi. When you get there and you need someone to wipe you down, I'll be there for you, Gigi.
I'll remember that. I'll hold you to that.
I promise you I will. All right. But is there anything else you may want to go over today in terms of maybe something that the listeners might be able to learn from something that you've gone through?
Well, the big thing is for me, my family.
Yep.
I've got the most wonderful family, and unfortunately, it's so far away. But if I can get up here so many times a year, see you all, have fun, and I'm worn out by the time I get back from here. And then I've got family in Adelaide, and I just live for my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a happy conclusion.
That's another thing too. I think, unfortunately, for some people,
Yeah,
they don't.
They
They
don't
don't have
have-
that family environment, or they
No.
maybe have things that they might hold into from something that a parent said. I'm not going to go into details, Gigi, because I think you know what I'm talking about
Yes,
in terms
I
of
do.
holding on to. So you can relate a little bit to someone in your
Yes.
family, but
Yeah.
For other people out there that may be going through the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have the opportunity to kind of sit down and work things out, because the longer you hold into things, the
Yes.
worse things
Yeah.
become, and the longer you burden yourself in your mind with all this negativity. Why
That's
not?
correct.
Even if you're not in the wrong, and you've got to just take part of the blame just to move on, why not do it and just let things go?
That's right. Exactly. And let sleeping dogs lie.
Let sleeping dogs lie. That's exactly right.
That's right.
But thank you very much today, Gigi. I'll give you a
It's
hug.
been a pleasure. Oh,
Thank you.
yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Gigi. But as always, Gigi,
Thank you for the opportunity.
I'll come down to South Australia
Oh.
when we can.
All right.
I'll visit you, and I'm looking forward to you chucking the kettle on at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Get ready. It'll be on.
Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Couch in the Mind, clearing the mind one couch talk at a time. And so the topic today was against all odds, and I had my grandmother on, Rita Woolaston, aka GG, also known as 1TGG, which is an acronym for One Tit GG. So if you guys enjoyed this video, feel free to like and share and comment on it. And as always, if you need me for anything, just you know where to message me on the Couch in the Mind page. All right, guys, that's all from me, and I'll see you in the new year. Catch you later.